Yo, 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 what's up, Raid?
Hey man, I am well. How's it going?
Doing
Nice glitch.
alright?
Nobody saw that. We'll give it another 5 minutes and then just mess around. Oh, I guess it's just us.
Guess so.
Alright. Well, I'm just gonna start then. Alright, okay. So, same thing as yesterday, quick agenda. So I'll cover quickly, like, well, actually, first of all, have either of you played any leadership role before?
No, not an Arma.
Just a
Okay,
squad leader.
okay. So most of this then should be new to you, unless you've SL'd a little bit, in which case some of it might sound familiar. But yeah, I'll just cover the comms quickly, comms etiquette, although that's pretty standard for the server. So I'm sure that's most of what you know. Equipment, so that's again pretty subjective, like yesterday. But up to you how what you take. But I'll share with you my kit, and then role responsibilities and the platoon structure. So obviously one of the key things here for this training, and then finally some basics of leading the platoon. Just kind of what your day to day, if you ever step in as 1.7 or 1.6, might be, stuff to think about as you go forward. So on the comms channel, any standard communication is just 1.6. So you're 1.6, you're calling any other squad. So typically 1.1, this is 1.6, and then you send your message, or if you just want to keep it short, 1.1.1.6, and wait for them to answer. I'm sometimes trying to raise the actual squad leader, in which case you would just say 1.1 actual, this is 1.6, and then continue with your message, or wait for them to respond and acknowledge, and then you can send your message. The two key things key messages typically on the comms for 1.6 to squad leads is a sit rep and the ACE report. So sit reps, I tend to do them pretty regularly unless I can hear my squad leads communicating on 3.1, either between themselves or with me. If I haven't heard from them in a while, typically maybe 4 or 5 minutes, then I would probably ask for a sit rep just to understand, what's happening with that squad. Because most of the time, I will either try and be following them from the distance directly or using the CTAB. So just having a sit rep pretty regularly from a squad you haven't heard back from is pretty important. And then the ACE report, obviously, whenever there's a bit of a lull in the fighting, when you've capped an objective, or once you're moving to a new AO perhaps, make sure that you ask for an ACE report. So ammo, casualty, and equipment, I believe. So basically, just making sure that everybody's set. They've got the 5.56, the 240 ammo, the heat rounds, etc., etc. Channels that I'm monitoring. So I typically only have 3 channels in my ears, 30 as my alternate in both my ears, so that I can communicate with 6.6 and typically Ogre on 3.0. I'll have 31 or 32 in my right ear, and then my short range 160 in my left ear. You should be monitoring all 3 of them as per SOPs. And then I typically also have, and I think the radios are actually set up for that. Hey Stu. The radios are already typically set up to have 34, which is OGNet, possibly 40 and 80 set up as well on the long range. I'll have them set up on my long range in case I need to flip to one of them. The most likely one I'll be flipping to is Ogre if I can't outreach them on 3.0. 80 if there's a Stalker that's coming online and there's no 1.8 set up. And then 40 is typically Savage. I rarely jump on that net unless I really need to get in touch with them. Questions?
What was the net for Ogre?
34.
Okay, thanks.
Finally, and back to yesterday's brief of what's the most important thing. So yesterday was staying alive as 1.8. Otherwise, you lose contact with your assets. With 1.6, I'm just going to say the same thing: stay alive, because the platoon's basically relying on you, particularly if there's no 1.7. the platoon's relying on you to kind of coordinate everything, designate objectives. So if you go down, it's a bit of a shit show typically, unless you've got quality SLs who can step up temporarily. One last thing, just be polite and keep unnecessary chat off comms. So there are instances where people get frustrated or just kind of like let loose. They're tired. It's 3 a.m. and you're just kind of playing. You've been playing for 6 hours and something goes wrong. There's just no need for that, and it just, it reflects badly on you, and it just doesn't help the platoon. So just something to keep in mind always. I just try and keep comms to a minimum and just be polite whenever I need to say something. If there's any kind of issue with any kind of SL or anything like that, you can just have a chat face to face or in game. Whatever you've got, you captured the next AO or the next OBJ. So if there's anything on that, just keep it until then. Equipment wise, so the minimum things I would say to take are obviously again like the Vector and the micro dagger. Like the TB training yesterday, the reason why is you may be asked to, or you may want to share some 10-digit grids with 1.8 or with Savage directly, although technically I believe 1.6 can no longer pull Savage directly now as per SOPs, but it's always useful to have the 10-digit if you need to feed it onto 1.8 quickly. I also carry the tablet, so the CTAB tablet, the very big one. I use that, and I highly recommend you use it as 1.6, simply because it gives you multiple options, not only the very big map, but also you've got, so the UAV live feed I've never really used, but the helmet cam can be really, really useful. So right now I can see Puddle's got a helmet cam looking at me. That can be really useful if you need to check up on a squad that is not responding on comms, for example, or if 1.8 has gone down and you can't reach him, you can maybe check his helmet cam, see if he's down or not. So I highly recommend using the bigger tablet instead of just the Android for the 1.6. I also typically carry the thermal imager with me as 1.6. I've used it quite a fair amount on like the 1.8 training I gave yesterday, simply because I'm typically closer to the AO. So something to if it's useful, just make sure you grab it. I'm currently at 40 kilos on my kits. Again, quite heavy, but that's because I am carrying a fair amount of smokes and additional magazines that I can distribute. So my combat load without the backpack would be, let me check, 26 kilos. I basically have 5 mags in my chest plate carrier, and then a 6 mag inside the weapon itself. And then I'm carrying 10 smokes, which is a lot, but to break contact or cover any kind of pullback, or even, if the whole platoon's been wiped and it's just you left, it's just really useful to have a shit ton of smokes, so I carry a lot. Any questions? Right, I also carry 2 humanitarian rations in my backpack, personal aid kit. I carry 9 additional magazines that I can distribute to, it could be 1.7, it could be a squad that's run out, and the ammo resupply that hasn't made it. And then I have a couple of colored smokes, so I've got 1 yellow and 2 purple, just to mark an LZ or my position if there's a strike inbound that 1.8 is calling. So yeah, just a mix. And then obviously extra bandages and some plasma and saline as well, in case I need to give it to 1.9 or he needs to use it on me. That's pretty much it on the equipment. Yeah, I recommend not taking too much ammo unless you end up, firing a lot as 1.6. I'll talk about the different types of 1.6ing I've seen and how I play it. I tend to play it from the back of the platoon, not really front line. So I typically only really need like 4 or 5 mags, and if needed, I can always pull some off somebody else, or from typically if I need more mags, it's something's gone wrong and it's a shit show, and a few people have already died, and I can just grab it off their kit. So that's for the comms and the equipment. Now, roles, responsibilities, and duties, which is the core bit of this training. You basically should have, as a priority, once there's a restart or whenever you are, typically it's going to be at restart, that you're going to be back at FOB and organizing everything. You may do this during a restart, so you may have the whole platoon RTB, but it's not really necessary if you have coordinated with Ogre and maybe even Stalker accurately. You can just do a full platoon resupply in the field, and Stalker can even bring out vehicles if needed, so there should really be no need for you to RTB to a FOB unless you're switching AOs completely from like one side of the map to the other, if that makes sense. So sorting out squads and VICs. So ideally, if it's high population, you should have squads at your position. It doesn't really matter, how many there are in each squad. You should have enough people to kind of cap a point. You should have enough people to maybe run a VIC. You should have at least one full squad, typically, maybe even more. At low population, though, that's when it becomes slightly more of an issue, because you may only have like one squad or one half squad, or a full squad but split up between 1-1 and 1-2, so each one only has half. At that point, particularly at restart, I would strongly recommend you ask the individuals in each squad. You can't tell them to, but ask them to switch into another squad, just so they have a single squad consolidated. They can see each other on CTAB, they can work together, they don't have to mess around jumping on somebody else's comms. And you can also ask them to switch into 1-4, obviously the heavy weapon squad, which is probably your best bet if you're on low population, simply because of the types of weapons they have access to. If you only have 6 or 7 people online, you want some heavy AT and maybe 1 or 2 240s to help you out. So strongly recommend, if it's low population, to ask them, again, you cannot tell them to do so, but ask them to switch into 1-4 to help you out, and so they can pull a good crate for you to go on battle group defense, for example. Make sure that all your squads, so before you step off from the FOB, make sure all your squads have pulled their crates and have filled them up correctly. That basically means if they take the first objective and they're low on ammo, they can resupply, and then you don't have to already get Ogre to bring something out. This should be standard, but some, particularly with a lot of new people on, a lot of SLs forget about it, or even experienced ones will just forget about it until the last minute. So it's a good thing to just get onto 31 and make sure each SL pulls their crate and gets their squad to start filling up. Linked to that is vehicles. So as 1-6, one of your responsibilities is to, should you want to, designate a vehicle per squad. Typically you can only designate up to medium armored vehicles, APCs, so up to the Striker, I think. That can be independently run by the squad. Anything bigger than that, like the Bradley or anything like that, moves into a Butcher permission, Butcher permed role. So just make sure that if the AO is far or the OBJs between in the AO are quite far from each other, make sure you have a VIC, otherwise there's going to be a lot of bitching in the squads, probably fairly. The only issue with that is if you've got a squad that repeatedly loses a VIC, then it's your prerogative to just tell them, you've wasted 2 vehicles already. We don't have the supplies for it right now, so you're just going to have to hoof it from now on. That's perfectly fine. Just word it politely, but it does happen. Sometimes there's not much you can do. A tank or BMP rolls up and just destroys the vehicle. But if it happens multiple times within a restart or over multiple restarts, then it might be an issue with the SL or with the squad that just continuously keeps putting the vehicle in bad positions. So, I always recommend tasking a vehicle to a squad, just to carry the crate, just to provide a lot more mobility. But if you see that, they keep losing it, definitely feel free to tell them no. That links back to a wider thing around training the squad leaders under you. So the more you play 1.6, the more you'll get, or even just in general, the more you'll learn to recognize, like, which squad leaders have a lot of experience, which ones are new and may need a bit of guidance and coaching, which ones are still making mistakes, and then you can, not call them out on it either face to face, or just provide a little bit of advice. So that definitely also kind of factors into assigning vehicles for me, or also depending on, how much guidance on 31 I'm going to be giving each SL. Prioritizing squads, I already talked about that. 1-4 should be priority as much as possible, particularly if you're on low population, but leave that up to you to figure out. Liaising with other assets, so this goes back to the comms bit, so making sure you're on 30, 31 and 160, but while you're leading the platoon, you will be, if there's a 6 actual online, you'll be talking to them on 30, 30 the company command net. Basically, they've given you a tasking when AO to attack or capture, so you're going to be relaying to them. Typically, I mean, you're not going to be talking to them regularly. You might be talking to them like once every 15 minutes or something, if they're checking up on the platoon progress, if they're trying to understand what your plan is, if they've just signed in and you've been online for like 2 hours already. But make sure that you talk to them regularly. They can be really useful. Typically they're staying at FOB, so they can be really useful in coordinating reinserts, coordinating logistics with Ogre, as Ogre is a company command asset. So yeah, just make sure you're monitoring 30 at all times. 6.6 can really take a load off your shoulders. If you're in the field, then you don't have to worry about coordinating reinserts in the side of FOB, new people, and ammo, logistics, etc. With Ogre, I'm talking to Ogre pretty regularly as 1.6. I want to make sure that they have crates ready to go out. I want to make sure that if there's any vehicles that have, blown up on the mine or have any issues, I'm letting them know so they can send somebody out to come and fix it. I'm also letting Ogre know if there's any kind of threat to the supply lines. It's rarely the case, but it can happen that you've got enemy infantry that's spawned to the northwest because there's a point there you haven't capped and has moved across to the supply route that Ogre is using. So I'll be letting them know if there's any kind of armored or infantry threat to the logistics route, and if I need anything to mine. So this is pretty recent, I think, only for the past 4 or 5 months have we had Ogre have the ability to mine stuff, but I've been using it more and more, just as particularly on low population, because it really can stop a battle group, or at least eliminate the annoying elements of it, like the heavy armor, and just really have you deal with only the remnants of it. So highly recommend using Ogre to mine crossroads or bits of roads that you expect a battle group will come along. In MSKE, typically there was 2, maybe 3 MSRs along which a battle group could come along. So, I restart, I would typically get with Ogre or even just go straight onto the map and start marking a couple of minefields I've wanted them to set up. Ogre's going to get quite busy quite quickly, even with logistics, with getting ammo, fuel and supply from points, from factories, running logistics, running reinserts. So it's best to get the minefields in pretty early during restart, particularly as you may only have 1 or 2 people doing Ogre at the time. I'm also talking to Butcher on 31. Not much. Once I've assigned them a squad, it's up to the squad leader to decide where that Butcher asset goes, and up to the Butcher crew chief. But I will be, I'll want to know, when they're RTB, typically they'll call it out on 31. If they've picked up any kind of armored threats or anything like that, I want to be aware of it, and vice versa. If if I've spotted a tank, I want to let Butcher know on 31 as well, even before anybody else has. Talked a lot. Any questions so far?
I got a quick question.
Yep.
And sorry, I don't know if I missed this when you said this, but if you're gonna utilize Ogre for like the minefield demining, like you were saying,
Yep.
can you switch? Is it within your like wheelhouse as the PL to tell Stalker to start running reinserts or something like that?
Yep. You can definitely do that. If you want to, if there's a Stalker online and you want to prioritize, a demining operation or a mining operation, you can definitely get either through the 1.8 who's up, or if there's no 1.8 directly to Stalker, you can let them know you want them prioritizing reinserts and have Ogre do logistics and the demining operation.
Okay.
It's definitely within your wheelhouse to ask them and task them if there's no 1.8 online. You can't task Ogre, as that's a company command asset, so only 6 actual can. But most Ogres will be more than willing to help out.
And if you were to do that, that's got to go through 6 actual, obviously, right?
Most of the time you won't have a 6 actual online, so if you're
Right,
on a
okay.
operation, you just talk straight to Ogre.
I got you. Okay.
If there is one online, I would probably still talk to Ogre, and then just because it's on the company command net 3.0, 6 actuals should be listening in. So if he's got any issues with it, he can jump in.
Okay. Okay.
And then Stalker, typically, if there's no 1.8 online, you can task them. Yeah. Any other questions? Alright. Savage, Demon, and Reaper. So the SOP's changed during MSKE or just before MSKE, so you can no longer, as 1.6, call in close air support. You can call in Savage artillery rounds, I believe now, still. So that's why having that vector and the micro dagger is really useful. Just have a 10-digit ready to go, or just drop a TRP on the map for Savage to calculate the 10-digit, and then they can sort it out. I typically do my fire calls on, well, it depends. On low population, I will try and have Savage on 31 monitoring. Just because there's typically not a lot of comms, right? You might only have 1 or 2 squads, and myself on 31, so you probably still can do calls for fire on 31 without impeding communications. If there's anything more than that, if there's too many comms on 31, just switch to 4.0 and just run it through the regular artillery net. Demon and Reaper, you can't task them as 1.6. It's great to have them up in the air, but you will need a 1.8 with you to use them. So there's no real communication needed with those assets, at least from the 1.6 perspective. Just make sure that you're coordinating with your 1.8 if there's any strikes inbound, so that you can hold the platoon in place while Reaper's coming in. Or just if you need to relay to 1.8 any friendly positions, he's busy with 3 or 4 different channels in his ears. He might not have his C-tab open, he might be lasing something. So if he's nearby or even on the short range, you can just communicate what's happening. And I'll touch on working with each of the other platoon command people afterwards. Or right now, actually. So 1.7, if you got a 1.7 with you, it can help a shit ton. It takes a big load off your shoulders. You can basically ask them to do anything. You can delegate stuff to them. So if you want them to act as a bit of a forward platoon commander, you can. I typically ask my 1.7 to either do that, so to be with the squads up front, so that he's got a better awareness of what's happening directly. I tend to be relatively far back, so between 100 meters back and maybe 500 or 600. Well, 500 is a bit far, but maybe a couple 100 meters behind the platoon, so that I'm not caught in anything happening. and I can try and find like the best spot to give a good overview of the objective. So I can have 1.7 move forward, go with 1.4, 1.2, and just relay me anything that's happening up front. Or I can also have 1.7 run the logistics for me. So I'll have him on 3.0, working with Ogre, making sure that crates are ready to go. Any vehicles that get fucked up can be repaired. So all of that is just stuff that you can delegate to 1.7. They're essentially the same role. They can take over command of the platoon if you go down or if you leave. So really if you've got 1.7, feel free to make the most of them. Ask them to help you out with certain things. And actually, if you ever take the platoon leader perm application and you want to test out 1.6, definitely recommend jumping in as a 1.7 for an existing 1.6, just so that you can kind of hear the comms and understand how the platoon leadership is going without all of the responsibility falling on your shoulders. Unless, of course, the 1.6 decides to leave, in which case you're fucked. But it's a good way to get ready and get thrown in at the deep end. With 1.8, if I've got 1.8 online, I'm talking to him or her pretty regularly. Particularly if I've got a Reaper asset. Demon is a little bit different because typically there's no strike that requires the platoon to go firm. Whereas Reaper on a gun run, for example, on bombs will probably be coming relatively close to the platoon. So you definitely want to be coordinating with 1.8 if there's any kind of hit. You want to be aware, how long until the asset is conducting the strike, what kind of ordnance is being used, etc., etc. So I'll be talking to 1.8 quite a lot. And also then getting onto 31 and telling the platoon, Reaper strike inbound in 30 seconds, hold position for now, etc., etc. Make sure you communicate whatever 1.8 is calling, just the key elements on 31. So, Savage strike inbound in 30 seconds on TRP1, hold position. Or if you can even just say, if there's a single squad next to TRP, just have them fall back, etc. It's also your responsibility to make sure that if there's a strike incoming, you don't have any squads nearby, particularly if it's danger close. That they're, the line of fire that 1.8 is called, or the Savage rounds that are coming, the TRPs as far away in the danger close zone as possible from the squad, and that the squad maybe is in death laid or behind some rocks or stuff like that. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. With 1.9, I typically leave 1.9 to do what they want. In fact, 1.7, 1.8, and 1.9, I don't really micromanage. That's the worst thing you can be doing as 1.6. But I'll be communicating with them quite a lot on the short range. Not telling them what to do, but letting them know information and transmitting it to the platoon or towards them if they haven't heard it. 1.9 will handle his own thing. He can set up his CCP maybe on your position if you're relatively far back, so 50 or 100 meters back or more. Or he might be, if there's no Banshee online, he might be running it into fire a little bit if a squad is mass gas and pulling some people back. If there's a Banshee online, he will probably, or he should probably stay near you, and then he can coordinate Banshee to go in and pull out the casualties or work on the casualties if needed. But yeah, 1.9 is going to be on 39 monitoring that for you. So if there's any no response from a squad on 31, you can always ask 1.9 to check on 39 if the medic of that squad has called the mass gas, for example. Or again, you can use your tablet and check if the helmet cam of somebody within that squad is not moving. But typically 1.9, I won't be talking to them too much until there's a mass gas. And at that point I'll be talking to them a lot. If I need to, send another squad to help out, or at least secure the area for 1.9 to get the initial squad back up or anything like that. And then finally, final bit of role responsibilities and duties. So the different types of 1.6, 2.6 I've seen. My own personal preference is I'm typically in the back line and trying not to micromanage too much. So I'll be giving squad leads quite a lot of free rein in determining, how they want to approach an objective, how they want to dispose their guys and stuff. That's their role, their responsibility. I might help out if I can see that as squad leader is struggling, but most of the time I try and stay off comms, let them coordinate between squads without me interfering. It's quite annoying to have a 1.6 that's micromanaging everything as a squad lead. So I try and stay off comms as much as possible, unless it's really needed. And then I've seen some 1.6s go into the front line, fight with the squads and stuff. There's a time and place for that. I think most of the time I would try and avoid it, but up to you what feels best for you. Thinking again that, if you're the only command element online, if you go down and the squad leads aren't experienced, then it can be an issue. Because if you die, then it's going to be, 10, 15, 20 minutes until you're back into the AO. But, for example, if you're in a built-up area, or somewhere where, you're in a valley and you can't really see anything as 1.6 if you're not close to the platoon, to the squads, then definitely feel free to push forward to do so. So those are the different types. Now into leading the platoon basics. So the first thing is probably the hardest, which is planning what you're going to do with the platoon. So typically at the restart, but if you've also capped, for example, the 3 OBJs that you had initially planned to capture and now everything went well, then you need to decide your next area of operation, the next OBJs. I won't go into the mechanics of live with the proccing distance and stuff. That's maybe for another training, a more practical one. But just make sure that at the restart you've got a plan ready. Feel free to take, and in fact I highly encourage asking for input from squad leads, from Reaper, from Phantom, from anybody like that, particularly if you've just joined and they've been online for a few hours and they've got a good idea of the AO that you're going to be attacking. But it's ultimately your responsibility and role to draw up a plan. Try and keep it simple. Choose the best route of approach, but as I said, try not to micromanage the squad. Don't put down a point or a line for the squad to advance along. Just have that as a general guide of where you want them, which direction you want them to come along from. And then once you're on the ground, they can adapt to the terrain, they can adapt to it. It's not a hard and fast line for them to follow. And in fact, most squad leads will probably find a better route for their squad than the one you put down on the map. So don't worry too much if somebody's moving away from it, unless it's moving into the prop range of another point or anything like that. Make sure you communicate the intent that you have. Key point here. So make sure when at the beginning of the briefing, you're telling them, okay, so this is the AO. These are the 3 objectives or 2 objectives that I want taken. Intent is to capture and neutralize any enemy inside, and then defend against possible battle groups that will spawn and come for this point. We'll go push from the southwest, first capturing this objective, and then moving on to the next one, etc., etc. Make sure that the squad leads understand what you want them to do, so that if you go down and there's no 1-7, or if the whole platoon command element goes down, they can still act on your orders without you being in the loop. And that should give you, the 15-20 minutes for you to reinsert. They'll be able to potentially, hold the platoon down or move on to the next objective without too much guidance from you. Make sure you communicate that at the beginning, so that they're aware of it. And as we move forward into capturing, the first objective, the second objective, start thinking ahead to what you want the platoon to do next. But I'll touch on that a little bit more later. Remember that your plan will almost certainly go to shit as soon as you proc your first objective and you move towards it. I've had fantastic simple plans set up, and then you land and turns out you land in a minefield, or you have a remnants of a battle group which you weren't aware of were still around, just hit you from the flank, and then on your route to approach the first objective, and then it's just kind of shifting the platoon to engage that threat and destroy it before you move to the objective. So don't worry too much about having a plan and making sure everybody follows it. Just make sure there's a wider objective and intent, and then you can just adapt it. You can change the lines on the map, etc., etc., as we go forward. Some people I've seen panic when the plan doesn't really go correctly, or if a squad starts doing something they weren't supposed to as part of the plan. Just get in touch with the squad lead on 31 and understand what they're planning to do. You can always task them to do something else, but they typically have a better overview than you do on what's happening. So yeah, take squad leads input as much as possible. Movement objective. I won't cover like formations or anything. That's for another more practical training maybe. But definitely put down on the map some lines of approach. Definitely put down, if you want them to hold position at a particular point before, engaging the point before moving in, or if you want to draw out the enemy from a particular point, have them move to you so that you can engage them better, then definitely communicate that to the SLs and make sure you've got hold points marked on the map or SBS marked on the map, that kind of thing. Any questions on anything I just talked about?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yep.
Like kind of concerning what you were talking about with the demining just now, or an ogre, I guess, as well. Do they have a demining vehicle? Or do they have to be on foot and find these mines? You know what I mean?
They have to be on foot, I think. I don't think we've got any demining vehicles.
So then as 1.6, I guess my question really is as 1.6, how do you incorporate the demining into how you progress across the map?
I typically leave the demining for later. If there's a minefield, I will just have the platoon move around it.
Okay.
It would take too long unless you've got an ogre out already with you mining something not far, in which case you could maybe task them to demine at least part of the minefield. But typically I just have the platoon move around it. The minefields typically aren't more than 100 meters across tops.
Right.
So you can definitely move around it. It's not like real life where you might have mines on
miles
meters.
For fucking miles.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely. You might have multiple minefields and only a small gap in between, but you can typically see that and identify it, and then I would push the platoon through it. It's not really. You don't really need to hold the platoon for it to bring ogre up to demine. Two reasons for that. One, it would take too much time, and again, most of the minefields are pretty short. And two, you're going to get a lot of people who are going to be. I mean, ultimately, this is a public server, right? People want to play a game, so they're just going to be bitching to kind of move forward, move along. So.
And then another question I had was what is the SOP for Type 3 control on CAS?
As 1.8.
Kind of related to the training that we had yesterday as well. But I mean, I guess you're working with 1.8.2 as 1.6 a lot too. The example I was thinking of was if you're 1.6 and you're on one side of a mountain, and somebody on your squad who maybe you trust, you're not, somebody who's not new, is telling you he has a visual on something that you need to get a close air strike on or something.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I would then get that information, acknowledge it, relay it to 1.8 on the short, and have them work with their asset to get eyes on whatever's to the northwest or whatever on the other side of that hill, and then identify it using their ISR sensors, and then potentially engage it using 1.8. 1.8 might then decide to move to where that bloke was. Or he might decide to use Type 3 control from his position and just have Reaper or Demon engage at will.
Okay.
Your role at that point as 1.6, so 1.8 will handle the strike and terminal attack direction.
Right. Okay.
You as 1.6 should be making sure that that person or that squad that's on that hill is is away from any kind of danger close strike, or either pulls back to the rest of the platoon or just keeps eyes on, just to kind of validate the strikes if needed.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. What else do I want to... Yeah, thinking ahead. So I already touched on that a little bit. You know, if you're moving through your AO and you've already capped most of the objectives, 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4, you should already be thinking ahead as to, you know, what will be the next objective, what will be the next AO. Is it, you know, are we staying in the same spot and just pushing along, or are we moving to maybe another side of the map? Because there's a factory on that side of the map that we should prioritize, or, you know, depending on if we want to place a new fob, what's the best location that's been marked? What's the location that's been marked by 6 actual or by the admins? And then you should be kind of orienting this platoon towards kind of capturing that area. So as a 1/6, yeah, you'll be thinking ahead quite a lot on that front in terms of, you know, what do you want the platoon to do next? You don't want to be kind of standing around for like 15-30 minutes on the final objective trying to figure out what to do. Unless, you know, it's for a really good reason, like resupply, or you're waiting for battle group to arrive to you. Make sure on thinking ahead that you're, yeah, again, communicating to Ogre. So typically, once I've hit and captured the first objective after restart, I'll already be getting onto Ogre to make sure that they've got crates ready, because there's probably going to need to be resupply on the second or third objective. And again, you just do that regularly as you get, you know, ace reports from squads, or as you see the platoon progressing forward. I'm definitely keeping in touch with Ogre, understanding, you know, is 1-4 almost out of heat rounds, but they're good on, you know, 240 belts, etc. So I'm relaying that to Ogre. I'm asking 1-7 to relay that and sort it out with Ogre to have an 80 resupply only, or do I need a mixed resupply, or do I need, you know, most of the medics have finished with all of their medical equipment. 1-9's also almost all out. Do I need to ask them to do a medical resupply, that kind of thing? So a lot of it will also be thinking ahead in terms of logistics, not just in terms of planning the movements of the platoon. And yeah, put down fallback position. I don't always put one down, but I will at least have one in my mind, which just put down on the map if needed, or you can just have the platoon gather at. So if you're getting pushed really hard, you know, you've got a battle group and you're only one squad, or a few squads, but if most of them are mascas and there's only like 5 or 6 of you left in the field, just fall back. It's perfectly okay as the 1/6 to, you know, fall back and just consolidate on a better position. Just pop smokes, have everybody pop smokes and fall back using best cover available. It's quite hard typically to get if it's full strength and, you know, everything's going well, there's no real reason for you to fall back, to ask the squad leads to fall back. But in extreme cases, it can be a lot more useful, and I wish we'd see it a little bit more in the server, particularly as it can be really useful when you're trying to draw enemy contact into the open. So rather than you crossing, you know, 200 meters of fields to get into a forest and then engage the battle group that's beyond it, why not, you know, fall back across the field into the town that's right there and just have them cross the field where you can engage it better. I usually have a fallback position in the back of my mind. Sometimes I'll mark it on the map, but not always, but just something to think about as well. It doesn't have to be behind, right? It can be to the west, to the east if you're pushing north, or wherever you want, wherever there's kind of a good place to set up a rally point and just a good all-round defense if needed. What else? Well, I guess if there's no 1-8 online, it's your task to designate LZs for Stalker. Stalker can do it themselves if needed, but, you know, they don't have eyes on what's happening in the field. They don't know what the threats are, so it's your role as 1/6 to put them down if 1/8's not around. So make sure, you know, you pick good locations relatively far back, or at least if they're close with some kind of building cover or in defilade or with a forest in between, that kind of thing. And again, thinking ahead, you know, if it's on you to designate it, then as you move forward with the platoon, as you move into new objectives, new AOs, make sure you push the LZs forward each time. And as per the training yesterday, consider having an alternate LZ as well further back, just in case. Hard choices. So again, this is a game, so it doesn't, you know, you're not dying for real, but as I said, like as 1.6, it's best to stay alive as much as possible. So if you end up having a choice between picking, you know, returning a Vic or holding it for the platoon to reinsert and going out with or without the Vic to pick up like 2 or 3 people who are down while you're getting pushed by a BMP and 3 squads of enemy infantry, and they're all on con, I suggest, you know, just holding position if you're not engaged, or pulling the Vic back if you are getting engaged. I've had to do it a few times. It sucks, but you know, between 3 people who can get reinserted by Stalker in the next 5 minutes and losing a striker or a Humvee or anything like that, I would usually prefer keeping the Vic out in the field. So you may end up being faced with that choice if you're at 1.6 for a while. So that's my counsel. Up to you whether or not you take it. Same thing if the platoon's completely destroyed. I've had it where, you know, 3 squads get mass gassed in one go through GMG and artillery fire, and then White Foz fell on their heads. I don't recommend rushing in to help them out unless you can see, you know, there's a few of them up. You can get to them pretty good with some cover, and then you can throw some smokes. The White Foz, obviously, that's a no-go for a long while. So just feel free to stay back or help out a few of them if you can. And then the final hard choice is, that I've written down anyway, is the choice between moving or continuing to cap an objective and an AO, and then moving to intercept a battle group. So that's contextual. It's on you to make that choice, unless 6actual decides, you know, you should prioritize one over the other. But ultimately, it's really, you know, if you've got 30 seconds or, you know, 5 minutes left on capping an objective, you know, there's no reinforcements, you've dealt with most of the threats, it's perfectly fine for you to kind of ignore the battle group for the next 10 minutes while you cap that objective. But again, you should be thinking ahead of, okay, once we've capped this objective, which I can just leave to my SLs, what do they need to make their way to intercept a battle group, particularly if it's on the other side of the map, for example, or like, you know, 3 or 4 clicks away. Should I be talking to Ogre to get them out with 1 or 2 trucks? Should I be talking to Stalker, you know, to coordinate that? Should I be, you know, maybe pulling one of those squads out of the assault? You know, if it's like 75% full blue or 80% full blue, and I've got 3 squads and 1-4, can I take 1-4 and maybe one of the squads out of the assault and have them switch to battle group defense and go intercept that battle group? Again, hard choices. Sometimes you will. I've had it where I've let a point be lost, and in fact 2 points be lost by a battle group, because I really wanted this factory at the beginning of the map. It's always quite useful, and it's, you know, a radio tower and a town you can just recap later, but the factory was the priority. So hard choices. Typically you would prioritize the battle group defense, but if you're going after something or you're nearly capped on an objective, feel free to just, you know, continue on with this and then switch to battle group defense afterwards. Or if you can and you've got a full platoon, you can have half the platoon or 1-4 move to intercept the battle group, and the rest just keep attacking the OBJ. And if you're really lucky and you've got Stu and Able up in the air, you can just have them destroy the battle group and you can continue with your job. So that's for the hard choices. Reaction to contact, reaction to mass gas, reaction to contact, you know, unless ideally you want it to be, ahead of you, so exactly like along the point, exactly where you want the contact to be, so that the platoon can best engage it. With 1 forward in a good SBF position, or moving forward, providing cover fire for the rest of the squads to assault from a different direction. But sometimes you will get contact along the way from the left flank or the right flank, and then you need to reorganize. You need to understand from the squad leads what kind of severity of contact is it. Is it an enemy squad, an enemy patrol, or is it actually the remnants of a battle group, or like 3 enemy infantry squads supported by a BTR, in which case you would probably have to shift the whole platoon to engage and not just leave one squad to deal with it while the rest of the squads move forward on the objective. So make sure you've got your C-tab open, make sure you're tracking where your squads are, where the contacts are coming from, and then I will typically move potentially one squad to support whichever one's getting engaged, and then have the others keep on objective unless it's something major that's engaging the platoon. Reaction to mass gas, obviously you don't want to make it worse, and 1-9 will handle the medical angle, but you should also be thinking about how can you secure and best get the people back up. If the full squad is down, or like 80% of it is down, 2 people are trying to, the remaining 2 or 3 are trying to get everybody stabilized. Nobody's pulling security, and they're still getting pushed. You should be thinking about shifting at least one squad to go help them out. Particularly, an extra medic is always useful, particularly if the medic is uncon. You should be pushing 1-9 to their position, or have 1-9 push Banshee to their position, and maybe just holding the platoon because you just went down, at least 25% fighting capacity, if not 50%, because one squad is also helping out on pulling security for the mass gas. So a lot of moving bits and pieces, but it's a scenario that happens relatively often. So if there's a mass gas, feel free to hold the platoon and just shift support towards the squad that's gone down. Any questions on that?
Negative.
Alright, then my final point is to remember the restart. So the server restarts every 6 hours now, 5 or 6. I think they've shifted to 6. So remember that and Ogre will get on you, 6 actual will probably get on you as well. But just remember to have the squads return their VIX to the FOB. Make sure that Stalker and Savage are also back at FOB, because if any of those are caught outside from the restart, you will lose the vehicles. Some people will tell you, usually for most maps we have some vehicles that are provided every restart, right? So you might have like 2 Ribs, a Mark 5 and a Humvee, or 2 Humvees and 1 Little Bird or something like that. It's just good standard practice SOP to have them return to base, even if you know that they're going to be refunded and respawned. It's bad practice to leave them out, simply because admins could then just decide going forward that they're just not going to provide it, and then it impacts the whole platoon. So make sure at the 30-minute mark, and especially the 15-minute mark if the AO's far, you are getting onto the squad leads for them to delegate a VIG to bring back, or just do it yourself, right? You can, if needed, for the last 15 minutes or 30 minutes of restart, if there's only 1 or 2 points to take, you can probably just delegate to the squad leads and just return the vehicle yourself. As 1-6, you're probably not really needed anymore in the last 15 minutes, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Alright, that's a lot, and that's all. It's an hour, so that's all I had down. But yeah, I think the PL firms are 24/7, so you can just apply whenever you want. And then I look forward to having some of you 1-7 or 1-6 going forward.
Thanks, man.
Nice. Yep. Thanks for the time, man.
And again, same as with Attack P training, if you got any questions, just ping me.
Will do.
Alright. Well, I will jump off. But I'll
Hey
see
Ray,
you
do you
around.
wanna do the thing another time then?
Oh, shit. No, yeah, I would love to do some long range training actually. Yep.
Yeah, it's only gonna take like 2 minutes.
Alright. Where do you want to spawn now? The long
Go
range one?
to the weapons range. If you wanna be there for weapons or what's it called,
Yep,
like
if you guys
sniper
want to.
training, then go to the fucking small arms range.
Okay, for sure. I'll head over there.
Good point, forgot about that. See you there. Nice doing. Yeah, 1-6, right. If you guys want, you can jump into the Phantom, second platoon Phantom slots.
Oh
and you
yeah,
get
so we can
access,
actually use the. Yeah, good point.
Is 900.
Nope, I don't have that. Where is
It's
it? Oh yeah,
you see it? Yeah. Bearing
900.
170.
Yeah, I've got 160.
Should be around 930 meters, around that.
I've got 948.
I think you're looking at the wrong target.
Mine's bearing 160. Okay, 170.
Look 17 and all the way in the back. Should be 932. Look more to the right. A bit more. It's behind the buildings there, the destroyed buildings, ruins.
Yep.
Yeah, all the way in the back. You see that guy?
Yeah, I have it as 830.
To the right of that one. There's one behind that one.
One behind that one. Nope.
Go.
Here, let me Let me shoot. Well, actually, I can't do it.
Go into game room 1 actually, so I can show you what I mean
Okay.
with future reference. Okay, it's that target right there.
I can't see your screen right now.
Oh, I forgot to spin the screen.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay. Weird. Alright, I'll try and see it.
Right, so we're going for that target.
I have him at
First you wanna get
351.
your vector, you're gonna get the range, which is 932 in this case. And that's pretty much it. Then you just get your range card, open it. One thing to take into note is that Vintage is disabled on the server, so your bullets will hit exactly where you aim.
Yeah.
So you just gotta open it and see. Okay, so we're shooting at 930, and then you see. Oh yeah, there's also no temperature. There's just one single temperature.
Which is 20.
Is 15. It 20?
I don't know, I'm asking.
I think it's 15.
Okay.
But on the training server, I think we have temperature enabled as well. So you'll just have a single column. And in this case, let's say we're using 15 degrees between 900 and 950. So in this case, I would guess probably about 8.0.
8.0, alright. I still, for some reason, cannot see this target.
I have it at 350 degrees. I mean, at 350 meters.
Then if I shoot at the target now at 8.0. I think that was high. I don't see my impacts. Where are my impacts?
Where are you aiming at?
Hold up. Might try a different target because I know that one's been a little buggy lately. Going way high.
Oh, I saw that one.
No, that one was left.
Yeah.
That was low.
Not seeing it landing.
Saw that one.
That was far right.
Okay, that's getting close. Barely missed. And that was a hit at the foot.
I'm not seeing it
Center
around
map.
that.
I'm not seeing it either.
Never mind.
Center map again. It's bugged back there, so it's not gonna go down for some reason.
Okay.
One other thing taking to note is if you notice that after a certain distance your impact will start disappearing. I have blast 4, and for some reason blast 4 makes it where I can see my impact way further. So if that's the case for you, I recommend installing blast 4.
I have it on.
Then you should be able to see your own impacts up to 5 meters even.
So I'm shooting 949, so...
There we go, knocked it down.
8.4.
But can we not see your targets when they go down?
No, you can. The one in the back, 900 meters away, is bugged and it doesn't go down even after you hit
Oh,
it.
okay.
So wait.
I just hit it
what's-
against center mass and it didn't care.
The one that just on the top, that's the range one, right?
Hmm?
The adjuster at the top, that's the windage, or is that the range?
No, the top is the range, and then the windage would be the side, but we don't really care about windage.
Okay, so I'm at 900 meters.
Which one are you shooting for?
The one bearing,
158?
yeah,
850, wait.
I have it at 950. Where's my vector saying?
I think, yeah, I see the target now.
I didn't see the bullet
Yeah, so
trail.
if you
Yeah,
just shoot
948.
straight for around 8.3, I'd guess.
8.3. Okay. So down one. Nope. 8.3. Stand mass. But I'm not seeing it land anywhere.
Try 8.0.
Trying aiming for center mass.
It was over. I think if you aim more to the left and shoot center mass again, it should hit the head.
You said bearing 158?
Yeah, the furthest one.
150
Oh,
bearing.
yeah.
There you go. Yeah, then it fucks it up quite a bit.
Oh, that's right. There's windows on here.
Yeah, it's just you gotta correct it.
Hit it. Yeah, I don't see it.
I saw your impact. So
You
I'm not
did?
sure
I
why
didn't
you
see it. Also, white 80. That's pretty. That seems odd. When it's 948 and you're at 8.4.
It's I think it's the temperature changes. Because I have to see what temperature it is right now.
Oh, that makes sense. I saw that one. Oh yeah, but also, I don't know if you know this, but with the bolt action anyway, when you shoot, if you hold the left mouse button after your shot, it will not launch the reload action, which means you can see where the round is landing.
Ah, okay. That's useful.
So just keep it pressed down and it will keep the reticule on it.
I see. That's nice.
Yep. Abel,
Hmm?
what has been most of the engagement for you in the server?
Depends which map. Depends on the terrain. Like on what was the first
Colombia?
on Colombia. Wait, was that on Colombia or was it on MST? I think it was on. No, it was on MST. My engagement distances were around 1,500.
Okay.
Just because I found some really good spots where I was able to see the entire objective. But basically, your engagement distance should never be closer than, I'd say, 900.
Should never be closer than 900.
Yeah, because at that point you're too close to the action. You're too close to the enemy. And it's both like an issue of, okay, they attacked you and then they started firing ZUs and infantry at you.
Yeah.
And also it's an SOP issue because you don't want the admins thinking that you're just charging in there with a sniper rifle, you know?
Is there a difference? Would you adjust that? Because I remember, so I've only played Spanish once so far at the beginning of Colombia, I think it was. And because the objective was inside like a major town, like a built-up area, the virus took us forward like literally up to the edge of it, and then to try and get into a better position on top of a building. Is that something you would consider doing as well or not?
Yeah, that's fine. If there's no other way to do it and there's no way that the terrain allows it, sure.
Okay.
But then you have a lot of terrain and you could put your post up 1.5 kilometer away, then do that because that's a much safer option. Sometimes when I was sniping at ZUs and they would look at us but they wouldn't shoot back, or like tigers, they wouldn't shoot back because they were so far away. They didn't even know that we were there.
They couldn't see,
Yeah, they just looked towards the direction of the shots, but they didn't. At that point, just stay down and wait for them to unaggro. So just wait a few seconds until the turret stops moving and then take your shot. But most of the targets are HMDs, GMDs that you shoot. It's like, I'd say 60%. And then 10% is like people with Iglas and RPGs. And the rest, 30%, would be Tigers. And then, I mean, technically you can take out BTRs in the Barret, but I haven't done that before.
Oh, that's right, there's a Barret now.
Yeah. You only get 2 mags though.
Got it. Is it something then that I would probably put it inside the big and only bring it out? Like I wouldn't carry it really that much.
Damn it, I was going for that.
Oh my bad.
Yeah, no, don't carry it.
Good.
You want to have it in a car or in a crate. And then if something shows up like a VTR, then you just pull it out. And most likely I'm just going to be running the drone for recon. The other will be on overlaunch with the sniper rifle.
On the main server, the only thing to worry about really is just the range then.
The range, and then you want to make sure you're not being you have a good position.
Do you ever use the spotting scope or not?
Rarely. I put it in the car and I have it in my inventory, but it's more like I use it when there's an objective and it's covered by a fuck ton of trees and I see something, but I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
So I put it down, get a closer look, make sure that that guy has an RPG or an Igla, or if it's a BMP that I'm looking at through the trees.
Okay. Do you usually go for center mass or?
Depends on the target. If it's infantry that can move away quickly, yeah, center mass. If it's emplacement, like DMVs and VUs, go for the head.
Alright. Ooh, I love that sound.
Hold down again to keep it from
The same
flacking
button.
around.
The same button you used to shoot. The
Just
left
don't
mouse
let
button.
go of left
Yeah,
mouse.
don't let go.
Press it and hold it.
Gotcha. Sick.
And then once you release it, it will cycle.
Do you carry
That's-
the?
Yeah, make sure to carry the night vision on.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
like the most important thing.
I was gonna ask.
Because then it gets nighttime and you're basically useless until it's
Yeah.
daytime again.
Otherwise, yeah. The PBS at the end. The M85 41A plus AM PBS 27.
What was it?
The one with AM PBS 7 at the end.
Which one?
Uh,
Oh, let's go.
you can't see it with people. You have to go onto the ESR.
Oh, the ESR.
ESR is the only one that has it. I just realized this now.
Hey Abel, which rifle do you think is the best then?
Oh, depends. Again, depends for the task. If you're droning or you're traversing ground to get into a new position, you want to have an M4 out just for those close engagements. So make sure to have one of those either with you on the car. And then for long range, the M2010 is definitely the king. because one, it's 300 min max, so goodbye Russian, you're not fucking surviving that. Two, because it's 300 min mag, it has a lot of range.
Yeah.
Pretty much it. 300 min mag is just the king. I mean, there's the M24. The only upside I see to the M24 is that it has a silencer or suppressor, so it's harder for them to spot you, but I don't know. Maybe it's worth taking it just for those occasions when you're like super close to the enemy and you need to take a shot.
So maybe would you have like all three of those like just in the vehicle then?
Honestly, I never carry an M24, nor do I carry a what's the other one? I think it's the Mark 14, M14 EBR.
Okay.
I only carry the M2010 and the M4.
I've set up a kit for that. If one Phantom's carrying the 2010, I'll probably be carrying the EBR with me.
I don't know. When I Phantom, I make sure to pack our vehicle or our crate up as much as I can with all the shit I need. So I have like backup spotting scopes, backup what's it called? Sniper kits, backup rifles, CQC rifles, backup everything, right?
Okay, good to know.
So that if, let's say, the drone goes down, both of us can grab a sniper rifle until we have our drone back again. But yeah, most of it is just judging off of the impacts.
Yeah.
Most likely, you're not gonna get a first shot, first kill. I only have like a few of those that I was able to pull out with just those lucky shots. But most likely, you're gonna see an impact next to it, and then correct up or down by a few mils until you basically walk your bullet onto the target.
Which is fine for static emplacement for moving infantry.
Sometimes infantry, I mean, most likely you're never gonna hit moving infantry.
Yeah.
Because they're moving. But if it's static, sometimes they'll just like aggro for a second and then unaggro.
Got it.
You gotta take time of flight into effect as well. So if you're further away, then you need more lead, or it's not even worth taking the shot.
Yeah. Bring it back up. Nice. I would love at one point to have a full Phantom, like 4 people, just on the same spot. That would be sick.
Hey, do you know which site is zeroed for which rifle?
I don't think it matters. They're all zeroed the same.
I think it's, yeah, 100 for each one, they adjust automatically. And so does the range card.
I don't know. I just can't range. I can't hit anything confidently with the M24 past like 600 meters.
Yeah, well, are you using the
Using the what?
range card?
Oh yeah, I forgot. Let me look at that.
Yeah.
Are you adjusting with the... Are you adjusting the scope, or are you just holding off?
Yeah, I need to recheck the zero too.
If it's Altis, the next map, which it looks very much like...
Oh, it's gonna
is.
be shooter born in
It's gonna be amazing, yeah.
In the range table, it automatically changes its values based on what weapon I have out. Okay,
and
cool.
what scope does on.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
Put the target back up. How do you put the target back up?
You go into self-interact, target control, open target control, and then you just press the green button for all of them.
I see. Take control.
Oh yeah, you have to do that first, yeah.
Yep, yep.
And then start the track. Do you use the IR laser at all on the 2010?
Not really. It's more for like, oh shit, there's a guy right in front of me.
Okay,
Right, you
makes
shoot
sense.
him quickly.
Yeah, yeah. No scope. Got it.
Actually, no, I might use it for spawning. Like
For spot, yeah.
for 1.6, like, hey, do you see the lasers right now? Yeah, there's a bunker right there, and it's
Got
like
it.
right around the corner.
Got it.
Not 1.6. I've had it on last map on NSPA where 1.1 was or 1.3 was locking up, and I was lasing, and I was like, hey, if you look at my lasers, there's a bunker right there around the corner. That's what it's useful for, really.
Got it. Let's see if I can spotting scope. Oh.
Oh, how did you manage that?
And so you use the vector more than the laser designator then?
Yep. I only have the. Actually, I don't. I mean, technically, I have the laser does in my backpack all the time, but I've. Actually, no. I use it sometimes if I don't want to put down a spotting scope, or if I can't put down a spotting scope, then I
Yeah.
have the extra zoom on the laser does.
Got it. That makes sense. Right. And you carry both a UAV terminal and an Android.
Yep.
Alright. So that's my kit sorted then.
That was a nice shot.
What is that? That penguin shooting.
Yeah, there's a tower back there in case you want to use it.
Not good. Alright. Well, thanks for the help. I'm gonna jump off, but thanks for explaining, Abel.
All good. See you around, my guy.
I will see you around, definitely. See you, Bottle.
Yeah, we'll see you, Red. Thanks for the training, man.
No worries.
Alright, Abel. I'm gonna jump off as well.
Alright, see you around, my guy.
See you around.